They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back. But when it's your sister, it's not just the knife. It's the twisted hand holding it, the one you once held in childhood, pinky swearing to always protect each other. My name is Claire Renner. I'm 34. Married for 6 years. A woman who once believed family was sacred, and that my sister Ivy would always be my best friend. Until she walked through my front door and changed everything. It started as a surprise visit. I remember it so clearly. A Friday evening, around 6:45. I had just gotten home from work, still in my heels, hair clinging to the back of my neck, grocery bags in hand. As I nudged open the door with my elbow, I heard her voice. "Hey, sis." There she was. Ivy. Standing in my living room like she owned the place. My husband Darren on the couch. Startled. Smiling. "Ivy just dropped by," he said. "Hope it's okay." I forced a smile. Of course it was okay. She was my sister. Even if she hadn't called or texted in 3 months. Even if her last words to me had been, "Don't expect me to pretend your perfect little life doesn't make me sick." Ivy and I used to be close. The kind of close where we finished each other's sentences. She was 3 years younger, loud, rebellious, and magnetic in that wild way that drew people to her like bees to spilled soda. I was the older, responsible one. The achiever. The stable one. I bought the house first, got the degree first, married first. Ivy had always been in orbit. I never saw the resentment growing. Or maybe I chose not to. That night, she stayed for dinner. Uninvited, but acting like it was normal. She complimented Darren's cooking, laughed at all his jokes, leaned in just a little too close when he spoke. I told myself I was being paranoid. This was Ivy. My sister. She flirted with everyone. That didn't mean anything. After dinner, she offered to do the dishes. I stepped away to take a work call, came back 15 minutes later, and found her in the kitchen with Darren. Whispering, laughing. His hand brushed her elbow. Something in my stomach flipped. Over the next few weeks, Ivy's visits became frequent. Always, just dropping by. Always when I wasn't home yet. She started wearing tighter clothes. Lipstick she never used to wear. Perfume that lingered long after she left. I brought it up with Darren. "She's your sister," he said, chuckling. "Don't be ridiculous." Maybe I was. Or maybe I was watching my marriage slip through the cracks while the people I loved most told me to calm down. Then came the weekend that broke me. I was away at a conference in Seattle. Darren stayed home, said he had work to catch up on. Saturday night, around 11 p.m., I called him. No answer. Called again. Still no answer. 10 minutes later, I got a text from my neighbor Gloria. Sweet, nosy Gloria who sees everything. "Is everything okay? Saw your sister going into your house a little while ago. Didn't know you were back." I froze. I called Darren again. No answer. I called Ivy. Straight to voicemail. That night, I didn't sleep. I flew back a day early. Didn't tell anyone. When I pulled up to our driveway, I saw her car. I unlocked the door quietly. Walked in. The house was dim. And there, in the kitchen, I found Ivy. Wearing my robe. Drinking from my mug. She jumped when she saw me. "Oh, you're back early." I didn't let her finish. "Where's Darren?" "In the shower," she said, blinking like it was nothing. I stepped past her, heart pounding, stormed into the bathroom, but Darren wasn't there. The water was running. The shower was empty. A lie. So casual it terrified me. Later that night, Darren came home. From where? He didn't say. Said he was out running an errand. Claimed he hadn't seen Ivy in days. I asked him why Gloria said otherwise. He blinked. Paused. Then accused me of snooping. Of being paranoid. Of trying to create drama. I didn't sleep that night either. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I checked our security camera archives. The ones Darren had installed 2 years ago, just in case. I scrolled through the footage from the weekend. Timestamps. Movement alerts. And there it was. Saturday. 11:17 p.m. Ivy entering through the front door. Using a key. She wasn't just visiting. She had access. The next few days were a blur of tension. Ivy acted like nothing had happened. Darren gaslit me into silence. But I was done pretending. So I set a trap. There's a specific kind of silence that settles in a house where trust has died. It's not peaceful. It's sharp, full of glances, half-spoken sentences, and that crawling sensation that someone's lying right to your face. That was my house now. Darren pretended everything was fine. He still kissed me goodnight. Still asked about my day. But I could tell. Something had shifted. Not just in him, but in me. I stopped believing him. And I stopped believing Ivy was just being Ivy. So I did what any woman with a sister-shaped knife in her back would do. I sharpened my instincts. And laid a trap. First, I made a show of leaving. I told Darren I had a team-building retreat that weekend. A 2-day off-site in the mountains. Left Friday morning with a suitcase and a fake itinerary printed out on hotel letterhead. Then I drove 3 blocks away and parked. I stayed with my coworker Maya, who didn't ask questions, just handed me wine and access to her home security system. "Tell me when you're ready to talk," she said. I smiled. "Not yet. First I need proof." That night, I hacked into my home cameras again. Darren didn't waste time. At 6:12 p.m., Ivy walked in. No knock. No call. She used her key. Wearing heels, a crop top, and a skirt I'd never seen her in before. She brought wine. By 6:30 p.m., they were on the couch. At 6:47 p.m., she leaned over and touched his hand. He didn't move it. At 7:10 p.m., the feed glitched. Darren turned off the camera in the living room. But he forgot the hallway cam. The one just outside the guest room. At 7:22 p.m., I saw them kiss. My body went cold. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared. Ivy. My sister. Darren. My husband. 2 people I had trusted with every part of me. They had taken that trust and spat on it. In my house, on my couch, under my roof. And still, I needed to be sure. I needed undeniable proof. The kind even Darren couldn't twist. So I waited. The next morning, I drove back. Snuck in through the side gate. Used the spare key only I knew about. The house was quiet. They were gone. But in the guest room, on the vanity mirror, was a smudge of red. Lipstick. Ivy's shade. Smeared across the mirror like a signature. And in the trash? 2 wine glasses. 1 condom wrapper. I took photos of everything. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and waited. They walked in together just after noon. Stopped dead when they saw me. Darren's face drained of color. Ivy blinked, then laughed. "Wow. You're back early." I didn't move. "Care to explain?" I said. They exchanged a glance. "What are you talking about?" Darren asked, that smarmy edge creeping into his voice. "I saw the footage," I said. "I saw you kiss her. I saw her sleep over." Ivy stepped forward. "Claire, don't. No. Don't lie to me in my own home." I pulled out my phone. Showed them the stills. The timestamps. The smudged mirror. Silence. Then Ivy spoke. "She doesn't satisfy you, does she?" she asked Darren, eyes locked on him. My heart stopped. She wasn't denying it. She was competing. The room tilted. Darren stammered. "It was a mistake." "No," I said. "You don't get to call it that. Mistakes happen once. You invited her in. Again and again." Ivy didn't flinch. "She was never enough for you. Admit it." And that was the moment I realized. This wasn't about Darren. This was about me. About Ivy's need to win. To prove she was better. That she could take what I had, simply because she couldn't build it herself. I didn't throw things. I didn't scream. I stood up calmly and said, "Get out." Darren tried to protest. I told him I'd send him the footage if he needed a reminder of why. Ivy scoffed. "You'll come crying back." I stared at her. "No. You're the one who'll cry when there's nothing left to steal." They left. Together. And for the first time in months, the house felt mine again. But I knew it wasn't over. Ivy didn't operate in silence. She would try to spin this. And Darren? He would try to crawl back. So I did what I had to do. I called my lawyer. I've always believed heartbreak makes you weaker. But I was wrong. Heartbreak makes you strategic. Because once your heart is shattered, there's nothing left to guard. No illusions to protect. Just truth. And survival. And I intended to survive brilliantly. The morning after I kicked them out, I met with my lawyer, Angela Samuels. She had drafted our prenup 5 years ago. Back when Darren and I still thought we'd be the golden couple who never argued about money. Angela looked at me from across the table. You want the full separation route? She asked. I nodded. But I don't want him to just leave. I want him to lose. Angela raised an eyebrow. You remember the clause? I paused. Which one? She slid the document across the table, tapping a paragraph with her manicured finger. In the event of proven infidelity, the offending party forfeits claim to shared property, including residence, savings accrued during marriage, and any business equity accumulated jointly. I blinked. Back then, Darren had insisted on it. Just a formality, he'd said. Irony has never tasted so delicious. Proof of infidelity. That was the key. I already had camera footage of Ivy entering and staying overnight. A time-stamped video of them kissing. A photo of her lipstick on our mirror. A discarded condom wrapper in the trash. Angela grinned. This is airtight. We filed the papers that afternoon. I served Darren the next morning. He showed up on the porch with wild eyes and a wrinkled shirt. You didn't even talk to me. You talked plenty, I said. Just not to me. He stepped forward. Claire, it didn't mean anything. I held out the envelope. Good. Then you won't mind losing everything. His hand shook when he took it. 2 days later, Ivy called me. Blocked number. But I answered. Claire, she started. Don't. You don't understand. He was never happy. You were. Careful, I said. You're about to talk yourself out of the last ounce of dignity you have left. She paused. Fine. Be cold. Just remember who held your hair when you were puking in college. Who covered for you when? You used to be my sister, I said softly. Now you're just a lesson. I hung up. And yet, the quiet didn't last long. Darren wasn't going down without a fight. He filed a motion to challenge the prenup, claiming coercion of all things. Angela laughed when she saw it. We have video of him toasting to it at your engagement party, she said. While he explained it to your parents. I hadn't remembered that. But now I did. Darren, smiling smugly as he bragged about how clean and fair the agreement was. Now he was drowning in it. And then, Ivy tried something bold. She showed up at my work. I was in the middle of a strategy meeting when my assistant peeked in. Your sister's here. She's crying. I stepped out stunned. There she was, eyeliner smeared, holding a crumpled envelope. I'm pregnant. I blinked. And that's supposed to, what? Make me forgive you? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't plan this. He said he loved me. He said he was leaving you anyway. I folded my arms. He said a lot of things. Then I leaned in. If that baby is yours, raise it better than your conscience. I turned around and walked back into the meeting. 2 weeks passed. Court dates came and went. The judge reviewed the prenup, reviewed the evidence, and ruled in my favor. Darren lost the house, lost his stake in our shared savings. And thanks to Angela's strategy, I now held controlling interest in our once joint investment portfolio, the one he thought I didn't understand. Try rebuilding your life from zero, I told him when he emailed me asking for a civil conversation. You started this war, he wrote back. No, I replied. You just never expected me to win it. Ivy faded into silence. For the first time in years, she stopped calling. Stopped appearing. Stopped haunting. Maybe she moved. Maybe she stayed and hid. Either way, the air felt lighter. But just when I thought I had regained full peace, another secret emerged. One neither of them had planned for. It was buried in Darren's personal files, which I now had legal access to. And it changed everything I thought I knew about their betrayal. There's betrayal of the heart. And then, there's betrayal of the wallet. And the second one? It tells you exactly how much someone thought you were worth. After the judge ruled in my favor, I had full access to the digital records Darren used to manage. He always handled the bulk of our investments, a smug little ritual of his. "You focus on your marketing firm," he'd say. "I'll take care of our future." Turns out he was doing just that. His future. Without me in it. I was sorting through an old shared drive when I spotted a folder titled R&T Holdings. We had no company by that name, and it wasn't listed in any of the paperwork Darren submitted in court. Inside, I found a PDF titled Initial Capital Injection, IVS, Renner. I clicked it. My heart stopped. It was a signed document, notarized, dated 6 months before I filed for divorce. Darren had transferred $78,000 from one of our investment accounts into an offshore business account under a company registered to my sister. And the company's listed purpose? Real estate consulting. I sat back, stunned. Ivy didn't know anything about real estate, but she sure knew how to manipulate people. I dug deeper. Cross-referenced transfer records. Traced where the money flowed. And then I found it. A payment from that same account, $15,400, to a luxury maternity spa. Booked under the name Eva Stanton. Ivy's fake alias on Instagram. The woman who told me she didn't plan the pregnancy had been pampering herself with my money months before she even admitted she was seeing him. I sent it all to Angela. She called me 10 minutes later, her voice crackling with a grin. "He's not just a cheater," she said. "He's a financial fraud." Turns out, Darren had never declared the offshore transfers. And since they involved marital assets, they were in direct violation of court disclosures. Angela filed a motion. And within a week, we were back in court. Darren looked worse this time. He'd lost weight. His suit didn't fit right. His smug confidence had collapsed into visible fear. The judge reviewed the documents. Expression unreadable. "This transfer to a company bearing your sister-in-law's name," she said to him, "was not disclosed in your financial summary." "Why?" Darren stammered. I forgot. It wasn't relevant." "Wasn't relevant?" the judge repeated, eyes narrowing. "You funneled nearly $80,000 into a business linked to your wife's sister during the time you were actively engaged in an affair." His silence said everything. The ruling? A fraud penalty. An additional $60,000 awarded to me. All Darren's offshore accounts frozen pending a full audit. And Ivy? The court ordered a subpoena of her financial statements. She was now under investigation for potential co-conspiracy to commit financial deception. Later that week, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won. But you don't know everything, Ivy." I stared at the message, unfazed. Because at that point, I didn't need to know everything. I just needed to finish taking back my life, piece by piece. But then something did shake me. A letter arrived in my mailbox. Handwritten. Postmarked from another city. No return address. It was from Ivy's ex-boyfriend, Caleb. A name I hadn't heard in years. "Claire, I don't know if this will help, but you need to know. Ivy's been playing this game for longer than you think. Darren isn't her first. He's just the one who almost worked. She's been targeting your life. Slowly, for years. She told me during one fight that she always felt like you had it all. That if she couldn't be you, she'd destroy what made you happy. I should have warned you. I'm sorry I didn't." I sat with that letter in my lap for a long time. Because the betrayal wasn't just recent. It was layered. It was intentional. Ivy had always smiled at me like a sister. But behind that smile had been something colder. Something predatory. And Darren, the fool, had been her willing pawn. So I made a decision. Not just to finalize the divorce. Not just to cut them both off legally and financially. But to reclaim everything she tried to steal from me. Including my own story. There's something poetic about watching someone who's always lurked in the shadows finally squirm under the spotlight. Ivy had played her games for years behind closed doors. Whispers. Seductions. Quiet sabotage. But shadows only protect you until someone flicks the light on. And I was about to flood the entire room. It all started with a gala. Not just any gala, the Women in Impact Awards, hosted by the Regional Entrepreneurship Council. I'd been invited to speak on a panel about branding through adversity. Irony, right? I almost turned it down. But Angela pushed me. You've survived hell, Claire. Now show them what that kind of fire forges. So I said yes. And fate did the rest. Ivy, in her usual unrelenting hunt for recognition, had applied for a mentorship grant through the very same organization. Under her new consulting startup. The committee didn't know the name Ivy Stanton. They didn't know it was my sister. And they certainly didn't know she was the same woman facing an active fraud subpoena. But I knew. And now, she was one of the emerging leaders being introduced at the event. The night of the gala, I wore a black velvet dress. Sleek, minimal, powerful. As I took the stage, I scanned the room. There she was. Ivy. Hair curled to perfection, wearing pearls and white silk like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Our eyes met. She blinked, once, but her lips didn't move. I stepped up to the mic. And began. I'm Claire Renner, I said. Founder of Renner & Wild, brand strategist, and until recently, a woman who learned betrayal has layers. The audience leaned in. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. I told the story of being married to a man who weaponized trust. Of discovering the betrayal not from tabloids or viral posts, but from lipstick on a mirror. I don't tell you this for sympathy, I said. I tell you because silence protects the wrong people. And stories, ours, are weapons when shared with truth. There was a beat of stillness. Then, thunderous applause. After the panel, people lined up to speak with me. To thank me. To share their own quiet stories of betrayal, heartbreak, and rebirth. I spotted Ivy trying to slip out unnoticed. But it was too late. One of the board members stopped her. The same woman who'd nominated her for the mentorship award. Ivy Stanton? She asked. Ivy turned, smile frozen. Yes. The woman pulled out her phone, glanced at the email. Quick question. Are you by any chance related to Claire Renner? Ivy blinked. No. The lie spilled so effortlessly, it made me sick. But the board member caught it. She glanced between us, suddenly piecing it together. You both look remarkably alike. Ivy stammered. It's a coincidence. Then I walked up. We're sisters, I said. Though I wish I could say we were estranged by time. Not betrayal. Gasps rippled around us. Ivy's eyes widened. Her face drained. Claire, she hissed. But the damage was done. The next week, Ivy's mentorship candidacy was revoked. The organization issued a quiet statement. All finalists must meet ethical and legal standards consistent with our values. She posted a tearful video on her private Instagram account claiming she was being targeted. But no one cared anymore. The veil had lifted. Her audience evaporated. And me? I launched a series of workshops called Stories That Stand, helping women brand themselves after emotional ruin, job loss, or betrayal. Every session sold out. What Darren and Ivy tried to break became the blueprint of my strength. But there was one more chapter still to write. One final revelation that waited, tucked away in an old box in my parents' attic. A childhood secret that explained far more than I ever expected. Something Ivy knew. Something I didn't. Some stories don't end with fireworks. Some end with dusty boxes in old attics, and the quiet unraveling of everything you thought you knew. 2 months after the gala, my parents sold their house. They were downsizing, finally leaving the colonial home where Ivy and I had grown up. The same place where we used to braid each other's hair in front of the mirror. The same place where she first lied to cover for me. And maybe the same place she first decided I had too much. They asked me to stop by and grab anything I wanted before the movers cleared it out. I almost didn't go. But something pulled me there. Like a thread I didn't know I'd left behind. I wandered through the upstairs hallway, my heels clicking on the old hardwood floors. Everything smelled like lavender and insulation. Then I reached the attic. I hesitated before pushing the door open. Inside, there were 3 boxes marked, Claire. One was full of high school trophies. Another held yearbooks and old notebooks. The last had a smaller box tucked at the bottom, labeled in faint ink. Private. For Claire. When she's older. My heart fluttered. The handwriting was familiar. Mom. I peeled the lid open. Inside was a single envelope. No date. No return address. Just my name. Written in careful, slanted cursive. I opened it. Claire. If you're reading this, then something has brought you back to this house after time has done its thing. Maybe you're lost. Maybe you're just remembering. But there's something you deserve to know. When you were 5 and Ivy was 2, your father and I almost divorced. We were young, overwhelmed, and he'd had an affair with someone he worked with. We stayed together, for you too. But the woman he cheated with? She showed up a few years later, pregnant, refusing to say whose it was. We raised Ivy as our own, Claire, because we loved her. But genetically, she's not fully your sister. She's your half-sister. I never told either of you. We tried to treat you both the same. But I see now that sometimes, silence creates its own damage. If Ivy's ever felt like she didn't belong, I take responsibility for that. And if you've ever wondered why the love between you both felt sharp instead of soft, maybe this is part of it. I hope you both forgive us someday. Love, Mom. The room spun. I read it again. And again. Ivy wasn't just angry. She wasn't just jealous. She had been adrift, for her whole life, raising her fists at shadows she couldn't name. I sat on the attic floor and cried. Not for Darren. Not for the house. But for the sister I had lost before I ever had a chance to truly understand her. I didn't call her. I didn't forgive her. But I finally understood her. And that brought peace. A year passed. I never heard from Ivy again. The fraud investigation remained open, but quiet. Darren took a settlement job in another state. I saw his LinkedIn update, stripped down and dull. As for me, I rebranded my agency, launched my memoir, and last week, my story was optioned for a streaming series. Ironic. My worst nightmare became the thing that lifted me. Because betrayal isn't the end. Sometimes, it's just the beginning of the truth. And the woman you become after betrayal? She's not a victim. She's the whole damn storm.